Oh, it was a nightmare. I mean, the film happily turned out well, but the actual making of it and the people that one was forced to work with was an absolute nightmare. I mean, it was so difficult, unnecessarily difficult, and it was a struggle from beginning to end. From one end to the other was filled with problems. It was nothing like working with Clint. Working with Clint was a very special experience, and one of the great things about him as a producer, and I'm sure now as a director, is that he always trusted new people. He was always willing to try a young cameraman, a young person like myself who didn't know anything. I mean, I had no idea how to shoot a movie, let alone put one together. But he had a sense. And he has a sense of, it's some innate thing he has within himself. And nobody in Hollywood is like him. I think he's unique. And I feel very blessed, truly, I mean this from my heart, that I was able to do my first film with and for Clint Eastwood's company, because he was the producer and I was the writer-director. And it was the first Academy Award nomination that his company was ever involved with. Jeff Bridges, of course, was nominated for Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. And ironically, his competition that year was Godfather 2. His competition was De Niro. And because Coppola had made many, many movies before I ever made, my first movie, he was a big, established, famous director. And Clint was so thrilled that his company got an Academy Award nomination that he took out ads, and it was he was very excited by it. And of course, I didn't know what it meant yet. So I remember sitting in the Academy Award Theater, which was the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion then with Joanna, and I didn't understand the importance of it yet. And even when I got one, and I was lucky to get one, as I said, to work with Clint Eastwood, and then to actually be handed an Academy Award by John Wayne in his last public appearance, because as you know, after that night, he died of cancer, lung cancer. Both of them were so tall. I mean, it was hard for me to talk to them, but they were both so gracious. And John Wayne had been my hero because of my great love for John Ford movies. And I was speechless that night. I was so speechless, I didn't know what to say. So, and the next day I had to go to work shooting Heaven's Gate. So literally the next morning, a private jet took me to Montana. And the next day I was filming. I was on the set. So there was no time to enjoy it, so I had no idea of what it meant or nothing. To this day, I don't know what the experience is really like. It was so rushed.
When did the Deer Hunter, sorry for interrupting, when did the Deer Hunter come up as an idea, what was the origins, the genesis of it?
I don't remember exactly. Well, it wasn't an American company that funded it. It was a British company. It was EMI. The great music giant, and they decided that they wanted to get into the movie business, and they had allocated a certain portion of their revenues toward movie making, but they had to spend it for some tax reasons, accounting reasons in England, by a certain date. So they wanted to make, they were committed to making 3 movies. One was a movie by Sam Peckinpah, and one was a movie with Ryan O'Neal and Bruce Dern. I've forgotten who the director was on that. And then, for some reason, myself. And they were really counting on the Peckinpah movie to be the star movie, and the others were just a way to spend tax money. and then things turned out as they did, happily for me, unhappily for the others. But it was, they had some ideas that they were turning over in their head, and they gave me some preliminary things that some people had written, which were just absolutely awful. I went back and I said to Joanne, I can't work with this. This is ridiculous. They have ridiculous ideas. The people behind it don't know what they're doing. They had two producers who still don't know what they're doing, and but are still in the business because of Deer Hunter. But they don't know any more now than they did then, and then they knew nothing. She said, "Well, will they give you money to make a movie?" I said, "Yes, they want to start, like immediately." So she said, "Well, then just make up a story of your own. Tell them you'll do it, but do your own story." So I said, "That's crazy." She said, "No, just go in and tell them a story, and you know, and film your own version of whatever it is they have in their mind." So I did that. I went and I told them a story. I told them the Deer Hunter story, and at the end of it was 1 hour in Beverly Hills in an office on Rodeo Drive, and I told them the story, and they said, "Okay, go make the movie." It wasn't even written. It was just an idea I had in my head, so I had to prepare it and write it at the same time. It was a lunatic, you know, but once again, I took Joanne's advice. Her advice on Thunderbolt and Lightfoot was right. You're never going to get a movie to direct unless you write it yourself and get a big star to do it. And here she was right again by saying, just take their money and make your own movie. So I did.